how do we deal with that? How do we what are we going to do about that? So I'm going to suggest that let's talk about the easiest way. Okay. There's many ways to do it to overcome sins, but we're going to talk about the easiest way today. And that is um, offering and honoring prasadam, because we can all, kind of deal with that um, in an easy way. Gosh, it's really weird when you're spotlighted and then you have to look at yourself throughout the whole class. Um, there's probably a way around that, but anyway. Um, So let's start in let's begin in the beginning. So the second and the third cantos of the Bhagavatam, there's so many descriptions of creation, both Sarga, the Krishna's creation of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, the building blocks, the Lego pieces, and then Lord Brahma's secondary creation, which is all based on Krishna giving him the intelligence and the ability, and him taking all the Lego pieces, sort figuratively, and creating the world that we see. And that there's a very specific reason. We won't go into detail in this class about that, but if we just jump straight to the 10th canto, I think we all, at least I've had this experience, especially as a younger devotee, but even now, I read Krishna's pastimes and it's just like, okay, you know, now what? They don't, I'm not necessarily ready yet to fully appreciate them, but I can look out like I'm looking at Henry's house and I'm looking out the window and I see this beautiful garden. I can see the garden. I can see the walls. I can see the computer screen. I can see this world. So the Bhagavatam second and third cantos are beginning with this world and helping us, and all leading to Ashraya, leading to Krishna ultimately, but doing that by helping us become God conscious just by opening our eyes. Hmm. So that's the first thing. Krishna is the source of everything. And then if we go to let me make sure I have the right verse queued up. Yes, I do. Now we're talking about how to deal with all these sins that we just all this papa, it's called in Sanskrit, that we get because sin's tricky word is anyway because of the Western connotations of it. But the reactions, the karmic reactions that we get by living in this world. And Krishna says something, just absolutely wonderful in the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Jagna santa sina santo munchate sarvakli bishai punjate te pakam papa. There's that word papa. Ye pachant yatmakarnat. Okay. So the devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins, all kinds of papa, all kinds of karmic reactions, because they eat food which is offered first for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only papa, only sin, only get more karmic reactions. And I'm just underscoring this half of a sentence here that devotees, the word is santas, almost like, Santa's clause, but santas, cannot accept anything without first offering it to the Supreme Person. And we can talk a little bit more about that a little later, but that idea that, and I remember, when joining the temple in the 70s, it was just like you offer everything, right? Medicine, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, and everything else. You don't touch anything that's not first offered to Krishna. So this verse, makes it simple to counteract. We're not just into counteracting. Um, that's mentioned in the first verse of the Nectar of Instruction, just counteracting all the karmic reaction with good stuff. But um, this verse does mention that. And further, of course, we don't mind getting rid of the karmic reactions because that helps us. I could quote a song and try to compete with BT, Brahmatirtha Prabhu. I can see clearly now, but it helps us see things more clearly when we're free from those karmic reactions. But in much more importantly than that is we or yeah is the devotion that we can manifest and we can develop just by eating, just by all things, something that we do 2, 3 times a day, every single day of our life, right? Um, so we'll talk a little bit about preparing, serving, and taking prasadam. But first, let's talk about just we in the last class in Bhakti Center we talked about the word gratitude and just remembering where everything comes from. Now, we can talk theoretically about sarga and visarga, but let's talk about Kitri. So where does Kitri come from? Anyone know what this is?
Rice.
Very good. This is rice.
26.
Yes. And look, where does it come? I thought rice came from Uncle Ben's when I grew up. If anyone remembers what Uncle, or for me, I lived in New York as Al Walbaum's or AMP, or I didn't make any connection with the earth and rice patties. But yes, rice comes, and this is where dal comes from. This is mung dal. Look at that. It's all green and stuff. It's not just packaged and gotten at Patel Brothers. And this, if I try to remember now, because I didn't put the names, this is cumin, right? So we're making a kitchery here. This is where cumin comes from. And we know what this is. Of course, you have to take picture of ginger outside of, when it's already pulled out of the ground. But ginger, you're adding ginger. And this is the source of this is salt, right? Right? Salt just doesn't appear from Morton's, right? Salt. You have to have salt in your kitchen. And which one is this? Oh my gosh. Oh, turmeric. And this is turmeric. So it's all coming. Oh, and then of course you need some water in there, right? So this is a natural spring. So it can be such a we often have this disconnection between things like the second and third canto talking about creation and talking about Lord Brahma's creation and our breakfast plate or our lunch plate or our dinner plate. There's a connection. But in our society, again, it's not just a trip to Whole Foods, right? It's it's trying to make that connection and then remembering and then that connects with gratitude. I didn't create the turmeric. I didn't create, I worked hard and for my job and I got my paycheck and I took my paycheck and I went to Whole Foods and then I lost my whole paycheck because it's also called a whole check, right? Isn't that the nickname for Whole Foods or whatever, Trader Joe's if you were go a little less expensive or whatever. Um, but making that connection that this food that I'm going to cook and offer this boga, we call it, right? That I'm going to, boga means enjoyment, right? Because it's not meant for our enjoyment, it's meant for Krishna's enjoyment. That I'm creating, it comes from Krishna. It comes from the earth. And where does the earth come from? Everything comes from, the clothes that we wear, the chasma, the glasses that we wear, right? Everything, the containers of it's all coming from the earth. And where does the earth come from? Aham bija pradapita. Krishna says, oh no, aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate. Everything comes from Krishna. And he says specifically, Bhumir apo nalo vayu kangmano buddhi revicha. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. And we're just talking about the first five right now. We're not even, this class is not going to get into all the details of mind, intelligence, and ego. But so we begin with gratitude. And whether we're uh, having gourmet food, like I was just up in Toronto and I was at, like, I call it, I told my wife, it's Divyas of the North. Risheshwar Madhava Prabhu and his wife Palak, we were staying at their house and it's just like every meal is gourmet. It's unbelievable what kind of cooks are. So you're having gourmet or Henry puts together soaked chia seeds with some blueberries and raspberries for breakfast with some flax seeds, and that's what we have almost every day. I'm staying at Henry's house. Um, that's also super wonderful. It's simple, but it's all coming from Krishna, and it should all be prepared and honored in the right consciousness. So let's talk about that a little bit. In one place, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says the ideal prasadam, or the ideal way of preparing, is that the seed is planted with devotion, it's watered with devotion, it's harvested with devotion, it's transported with devotion, it's prepared with it's cut up and everything with devotion, it's cooked with devotion, it's offered with devotion, and it's honored with devotion. Now we might not be able to do all of those, especially the earlier parts, depending on where we live and all of that. But that's great. But at least we can do what we can. And Krishna says, the famous verse, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhakti Prayachati Taraham Bhakti Paritam Asnami Prayatatmanai. So that word, so he says, first of all, super simple. You offer me a fruit, a flower, water, in the singular. He doesn't say, uh, a whole orchard, or like we used to do uh, when we were young brahmacharis. We'd go into a grocery store, take out our Brahmin thread, and offer the whole fruit and vegetable section. We told Krishna to skip the onions and the garlic, but I mean, I don't know what, but anyway, Krishna just says a singular, but he does mention the word bhakti twice in that verse. And then if we can do that, then he says asnami, I accept it. So we want to slow down a bit. A lot of you all live in New York, the least slowed down city in the world, perhaps, maybe competing with Hong Kong. Um, and slow down and smell the roses, as it says, right? Just okay, it's time for lunch. Or I'm making a khichdi. Okay, let me um, I mean, Henry knows this better than anyone here because he had the great fortune of Jamuna Devi living with in his house for several years. But the few times that I saw Jamuna cook, she offered very devotionally the whole Mangalacharana, Om Jnana, etc., before cooking. And and um but also I also noticed one thing that Prabhupada taught her, that the kitchen was spotlessly clean throughout when she was cooking. But it was a devotional event, not just a chore to prepare a meal and then offer it to what is it, Henry? Radha Bhanabi? Is that the name of the deities? Yes, okay, to her deities. So, slowing down, being meditative, thinking about what is the source of this vegetable that I'm offering to Krishna. Understanding that, as Prabhupada used to say, his famous saying, you can't eat nuts and bolts. But, this is all, it's such a great way to develop bhakti because we got to do it every day. We have to eat. And then we try to offer it to Krishna with devotion. I wanted to read this from the Perfection of Yoga. Now, if we can, it's it's great if we can, of course, if we're at a temple, then it's really easy to take prasadam because everything that's offered to for in the meals is already is prasadam. It's offered to the deities. At home, if we have deities and a night, or we have some kind of altar with pictures of Lord Chaitanya and Krishna and the spiritual master, that's also nice. But also remember, if you're out in a rush, this is or you're at a like I sometimes have a business lunch. I usually just order salad with some olive oil. Mm. And you can't, if you're talking to some people who aren't practitioners of bhakti, you can't kind of, get out of your seat and pay obeisances in the middle of the restaurant and say, Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasad. Um, in the perfection of yoga, let me see if I can find that quote. Prabhupada writes, um, is this it? Yes. Um, We may prepare nice milk products, vegetables, grains, fruits, and other vegetarian dishes for Krishna and then offer them to him, praying, Sharira avijajal jatendriyata hekal. That verse. So he says that that can be an offering. He actually says it in English in the Perfection of Yoga. But that, so if we're in a rush, we can also just say that chant that verse, rather that song by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and offer our food in that way. Not that, we have a elaborate altar in our home and then we just, no, we can do it more thoroughly. But the idea, of course, is to offer our foodstuffs with devotion. And then to try to mindfully honor prasadam. We call it prasad seva. It's a service. And we have to do it every day. So why not try to do it as a service? And that is to, even if you take these classes on mindfulness and different retreats that they sometimes give you a raisin and just have you eat that raisin for like 5 minutes and feel the texture and the taste and focus, in a mindful way without distractions. So if we could honor, just like when I have meals with Henry, there's no television going on, there's no video going on. We're just sitting there, and his he doesn't allow that in his dining room, and we just we may talk, but it's a very kind of sattvic atmosphere. But I know some of us do things in a not so sattvic way, not so mode of goodness way when we're eating our meals. But here's a way to practice bhakti, whatever. If we eat 3 times a day, 3 times a day, so simple. You know, easier said than done, but to slow down, to actually taste the prasadam uh, in a grateful attitude, and then that's a way to be Krishna conscious. Keep it simple. Um, and we do sometimes say, "Oh, that was nice prasadam," and that's good because this is our only kind of sense gratification we get, right? Because we all gave up the heavy sense gratification of gambling. We can't go to Atlantic City unless we are going to for Harinam or Rath Yatra or something, right? Uh, but we one kind of enjoyment we get, you could say, is prasadam. But even then, we'll get more enjoyment if we're in a devotional attitude as we're doing it. And Mahaprasadam is special, and we want to be a little careful. Sometimes there's Mahaprasadam if you go to a temple, and we want this Mahaprasadam, but that not that Mahaprasadam. That actually is not the right consciousness. The prasadam the food that was on the altar in a temple is very special, and it's all super charged and super sanctified. And therefore, I was just hearing Shrutikirti Prabhu talk about this, that Prabhupada once suggested you just take all the Mahaprasadam and mix it all up. And we do this at the Sunday um, uh, feast. We call it Sunday Open House in DC. And at the end, there's the Mahaprasadam and, just a small amount to every person. It's all just mixed up. That way you're not making like, well, I like this Mahaprasadam, I don't like that. Don't give me for me, like I'm not a big fan of Loki. Don't give me the Loki Mahaprasadam. Give me the, you know, uh, Goranga potatoes Mahaprasadam. Right? So, and especially Mahaprasadam, you want to take, I say, I can't remember who the devotee was, but they were taking prasadam with some in Jagannath Puri with I think it was Satchidanand Swami, with some local priests in the temple or officials, and he sat on the floor, but he put down his chadar on the floor and then sat on the chadar, and they had the prasadam ready, but they weren't serving him. He was waiting and waiting, and what's going on? He said, "Well, you can't take prasadam sitting on a chadar. You have to sit just on the raw floor. The Jagannath Mahaprasadam is so special. You shouldn't have any kind of exalted seat, even as a little chadar, while honoring the prasadam." So he immediately said, "Oh, he didn't know that." He got rid of the chadar and took the prasadam. So what a wonderful process that even by eating. Uh, and we're so fortunate. I'm not. It's This is not a. I do conflict resolution often. I get hired by other religious organizations, and right now I'm working with a very well-known Christian organization, and it's in a certain part of the country where there's a lot of crabs, and so the very high position person that I'm working with, I said, well, can you come and travel to such and such a place? And they said, oh, yes, the crab meat there is fantastic. And I was like, oh, you have so many great parts of your faith, but you don't really get how wonderful it is, how wonderful the process of bhakti is that we can become liberated from this world and attain love for Krishna just by the process of eating. How wonderful. Okay, so I was instructed by Ananda Bihari to leave 15 to 20 minutes, so this is 18 minutes for comments and questions. I can't see
I
everybody.
see everybody.
You'll have to tell me.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me okay?
Yes?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Such a precious and important instruction that this is for our purification and how we can do it very carefully and not just in a mindless way, and how important that is every day. We would add, not to contradict anything you said, but we know Srila Prabhupada's father at his house, every day he would have prasadam and every day he would have guests,
Yeah.
mostly sadhus. So offering it nicely, preparing it, and honoring it is important. And then we might add that Krishna is very pleased if we give prasadam to somebody. Some
Yeah.
people were talking to me recently. I said, hey, we do that? I said, to just offer a glass of water and bring it out and pour it on a tree. We have to give Krishna consciousness to please Krishna. So giving it to others is important. And that can be done in a very simple way. And Vaisheshika was reading recently from the Bhagavatam, and it said that if a householder does not receive a guest, he's an animal. I was like, wow, I haven't, that some people don't even have an extra chair at the table, much less do they leave the door open, much less do they make an endeavor to share what they'd offered to Krishna with someone. And it says, Prabhupada told us many times, before you take prasadam, somehow or other, some people would go out and say, is anybody hungry? Is anybody hungry? And give to somebody, so just to prepare it, offer it to Krishna and honor it. That's fantastic. And then just to go one step further for Krishna's pleasure, just to share it with someone by some means, even once in a while, but what to speak, the Prabhupada's father did it every day. So,
Absolutely.
oh, glory to Prabhupada, Hare Krishna. Sorry to talk so
Yeah.
much.
No, no, no. A matter of fact, that's very connected to the verse because it says feeding the brahmanas. And I can remember in the 70s in New York, we used to distribute luglus. Is that how you pronounce them? In the subways. And I remember coming back one day and this devotee told this nice story about he was distributing them in a subway car, and the transit police came and kind of like, you can't do that here. And what he said, anyway, just a real typical New York scene. The guy said, but listen, you give me three of those and I never saw you. So, but that was a big thing. I remember there were just thousands of sweets every day distributed in New York. And Henry every day goes outside in this very wealthy suburb and yells, is anybody hungry? So far no one has come. They didn't get out of their Maseratis or Mercedes to come.
Henry Prabhu should drive around in his Viman. Then this way they'll take him seriously and honor Prasanam. One time there was an intruder in Prabhupada's quarters, a bug. So they brought this bug to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, what should we do? Should we kill it? Should we spare it? What should we do? Srila Prabhupada looked at him like, can't you understand? Srila Prabhupada said, give him Prasanam, he's hungry.
Yes, yes, it was wonderful. There's nothing nicer than that. I had to go to for another job last week. I went to a Native American reservation. I work a lot with Native Americans, and my daughter-in-law, because a lot of places in Native America there's no grocery store, or if there is, it's actually very hard to find vegetarian things. Let me just put it that way. Um, and so my daughter-in-law packed enough prasadam for 4 days. And so I was staying with a few other practitioners, conflict resolution people and it was just so nice because I was sharing prasadam with them. And it was so nice to see them, just like it's so, as Adi Prabhu was saying, it's just so heartwarming to see them relishing, not only taking, but relishing this, wonderful kind of Gujarati style prasadam. And then Henry gave me a whole bunch of pistachios and cashews and dates for traveling. And so I put that out. We had 100 trainees there. It was a school, so all the teachers and staff. So I put out all the cashews, and that was so great. Just seeing them, I tried to offer it as devotionally as I could, and then seeing, like, I don't know if it was all 100, but 80 or 90 people taking prasadam, just the prasadam pistachios or prasadam cashews. It was just, oh, I said, and when I texted my wife about this, and she said, now that's the real reason you went out there. Of course, there was other reasons. They were dealing with trauma. There had just been a shooting at the school and stuff like that. But yeah, it was nice to see them taking prasadam, even in the midst of this really traumatic experiences they were going through. Other comments, questions, thoughts? Or did I make you all so hungry you just can't wait till class is over?
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
This is
Henry?
Henry. Yes, so you know what, you brought up Yamuna. I was thinking about taking prasadam with Yamuna always involved glorification of the prasadam. And like she might say that it was like, well, this was a favorite dish of Srila Prabhupada that was taught to me by her sister, Pishima, and in a particular place, and you have to get a special kind of grain. And I mean, so many details. And then she might say, well, this was a special of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, one of his favorites, and she would describe a little bit. And then she might even say this was a favorite of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and on his birthday we would, and she and if somebody else brought some prasad, or if somebody else made some prasad, she would glorify what they prepared in such a nice way. So therefore the meal was always about the meal. It was a central thing, taking really, I really clicked into it when you said honoring Prashad, because she really did honor Prashad from the beginning to the end. And yeah, I just wanted to share that. It was just so amazing what she taught me. And what I saw, I didn't really know that I was learning something. I thought that I was just there, but it actually rubbed off. Chai Yamuna Devi, Hari Krishna.
Oh, thank you. Others? Oh, Bhima Prabhu has. Oh, somebody's saying something. Go ahead. Nope, I guess they went on mute. The famous Bhima Prabhu has his hand up.
Hare Krishna. Wonderful, wonderful class in that
You
remind.
sound hungry, Bhima Prabhu.
Do I sound okay though? I'm not.
Yeah, you sound okay. Just
I'm
messing
not
with
all
you.
buzzed out, am I? Okay. I'm surprised you have the energy to mess with me, Prabhu. Congratulations. I missed the intro. Just talk about Pushadam and the gift given to us by Krishna of of a new life in the family. It's just so wonderful. We're reminded every day of the miracle of how Krishna has facilitated our stay here in the material world, and 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 how beautiful he can make it at any time. So this birth of a new child into your family and into our greater family is just a reminder of Krishna's sweetness and his facilitating the our growing movement I've always noticed that the second generation, the third generation, not us, but it's always the children that come from us, down the line. We start to realize how special they are, that they've been given this chance to be born in such auspicious and spiritual circumstances as within your family, who everyone is engaged on some platform in always remembering and serving Krishna. And on that line, I would just like to say, Prabhu, you reminded me of my days when I first became a bhakta, and that it took me months of attending Radhanath Maharaj's cooking classes. And we showed up for the food. This was in the college, and the
Absolutely.
the whole boxing team would go, and we were sort of a wild crew. There were
I can
12 of us in
imagine.
it was from lightweight, which is where I was at, 135, all the way to the super heavyweight. And we would show up because it was off season and we were allowed to eat as much as we would. And Radhanath Maharaj alone would cook enough for 45, 50 students that would show up, including us. And then he would invite us over on Wednesday nights, and we'd all sit in a circle, and he'd tell us his stories of what happened in India. And these were uncensored, just humorous pastimes and anecdotes. And so we always remember that prasadam isn't just prasadam. Prasadam is the congregation of devotees and bhaktas gathering together in Krishna's name, whether they know it or not. And it was Radhanath Maharaj's association that was the true mercy that was coming through at that time, to be able to sit still, take prasadam, and then we would eat. He'd keep coming out like an Italian mother, with these big pots of halava, and there'd be blueberries or raisins. And halava was our favorite thing, and he would just huge mountains, Govardhan Puj type mountains, on our plates, and we would eat, and then we'd all be like groaning because he'd never just stop feeding us, and he'd always say laughingly, "It's a sin not to eat what's on your plate." And so we would have these eating contests, like who can finish up all this halava, and he'd just pile it like he would challenge us, and we would eat it, and then we'd groaning, and they'd say, "Okay, now lay on your left hand side," and we'd all lay. So there's this semicircle. All fighters, we'd all lay on our left hand side and put our head on our hand and our elbow on the ground, type of thing. And then he would proceed to tell us stories. And that was prasad too, because they were funny, they were humorous, they were deep. And I remember leaving with the rest of my friends, my teammates at that time, saying, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy?" There's no end to the amount of pastimes and the depth. And we would ask questions, and a lot of us, we were sort of Renaissance type guys, at least the small group that I hung out in with, like 4 or 5 guys. We were studying philosophy and mysticism, and we were fighting and doing all sorts of wild, woolly things. And but we would pepper Maharaj, and he would always come back with a counterpunch, and it would land square right on the button. And he would knock us out every time, just knock us out. We were dizzy with Maharaj. We were dizzy with the devotees. We were scared stiff of the movement because we knew that it required giving up of everything that we held dear, namely the 4 regulative principles. So that was the make or break thing. We were very lusty young men, and the idea of becoming monkish, because at that time in the 80s, either you were in or you were out. There was no it wasn't encouraged. Family life wasn't encouraged. Let's just say it was all about people in saffron showing up. So that was a scary thing. But I don't mean to ramble on, but I'm saying it all began with prasad.
Thank you.
And I love that you remind us that it begins with a date or a pistachio, because that's the magic. That's the thing that makes us humble, that we understand that even in the dissemination of Krishna consciousness, it's Krishna who is the doer. It's Krishna who is in that magic little pistachio or date. and it's Krishna who brightens within the heart of somebody who is in the association of another devotee who is making this connection, offering a bridge to remember and
Thank you. Did we lose
to
him?
remembering their friend and
Thank you,
ever
Prabhu.
well wisher. Hare Krishna.
And it's not only Italian mothers, it's also Jewish mothers, and it's definitely also Gujarati mothers as well. But thank you for that. And I just want to end with just going back to those pictures I showed of the different sources of where rice comes from and turmeric and etc. Um, Mother Earth is an amazing thing. In the Bhagavatam, it says Sarva Kama Dukhamahi, that Mother Earth provides all necessities of life, all desires, and to kind of when we're walking, it's of course it's hard. New York is what is it? Concrete jungle where dreams are made of. Oh no, I quoted a song. But if you can find some non-concrete in New York, but even the concrete underneath that is Mother Earth. Just how amazing Mother Earth is, and then who's the father, right? But just that Krishna through Lord Brahma's putting the Legos together, and through creations like the Earth, provides us with everything that we need. Um, yeah, it's amazing actually, but it's also amazing how unconscious we are of that, right? And we just go to the store and put some things in our cart and then go to the checkout counter, or these days the self-serve checkout counter often, and mindlessly, do things. But I'd like to add that, I hope in this little time together that we just become a little more mindful of everything from who we're walking on every day and the incredible gift that Mother Earth provides us, and what we're buying at the supermarket, at the store, and that what we're eating and how we should be doing that. And as Adipush Prabhu reminds us, one of the great ways that we should be being compassionate to other people, and that is through the distribution of prasadam. So the best classes always up ending a little early. So why don't we end a minute early?
Okay. Yeah, you're in charge, Vraj Vihari Prabhu. Thank you very much. What was Srila Prabhupada's guru's name at birth? Was it Bimal Prasad?
Yeah, Bimal Prasad. Yeah, I don't know if it was
Bimal
that.
Prasad.
Yeah, but that was, yes, Bimal Prasad.
Yeah, that's another connection.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're gonna wait patiently until Zoom develops the feature of sharing prasadam on the call. It's gonna happen.
That would be good. Then
Yeah.
I'll give you all chia seeds soaked in almond milk with raspberries and blueberries. It's a very healthy breakfast.
All right.
All right.
I
All
give
right.
you all
Thank you,
nine.
Vraj Vihari Prabhu. Bhima Prabhu?
I said I give you all 9 different varieties of tomatoes here. Can you see this on
Yeah.
the Zoom? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we have about 120 tomato plants, along with acreage of other things, and it is a wonder, when my
I
son
wonder.
my son and I planted these seeds. We didn't expect the bounty that we got, and this I have to give also thanks to my horses who fertilized these fields for years. And now we see that Krishna has this perfect cycle in place to allow us. And Mother Earth it's just not dirt beneath our feet. This is the womb. This is the womb of our sustenance, Mother Earth. And when you're down on your knees and your hands are in the dirt, and then you see what comes up from the seed, you don't need any miracles of Shastra to remind you that that this whole world is a miracle, that every plant that grows from a seed and produces this fruit from what we viewed as taken for granted uh, as the earth beneath our feet. We take her for granted. That's why we have problems in this world now. We're taking everything for granted. But when we see what Krishna is willing to give, if we're willing to follow his lead, this is Shastra, and this Shastra is colored green and red and also and orange for the carrots and yellow and orange for the peppers. It's just a wonderful thing, and everybody, even if you just had a pot and put it on your windowsill and throw a couple of seeds in there of whatever you want to grow, when that little sprout comes up, you'll also understand what the bhakti creeper is all about and how we need to protect it and nurture it and how delicate it is and how we must keep the weeds out, etc., etc. It's just the whole world is just one big shastric evidence, one big reflection of how Krishna loves us so much and how Mother Earth is here for us, sustaining us until we return home. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhima Prabhu. We're going to put a little deity of Bhima Prabhu on my windowsill next to the plants. Your patron saint of cucumbers, Bhima Prabhu.
That's going to be one ugly deity.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, darshan is coming, dear devotees. Put on your best look. Jiv Jago, if you're dozing off. Okay. All right. Let's be seen by the Lord. Manoharji, please unmute. We didn't want to miss Kuna Nimai Prabhu's blowing of the conch. I can hear it from here, where I am.
Radha Murida Gora Chandana Sim Bhagavan Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. I'm so happy to be in your association. You are my extended family. Thank you so much for being who you are. Sundaranandaji Prabhu, how is your bhajan?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. Yep, yeah, trying to do bhajan and not get banged up myself.
Yeah. You see, when we chant in the association of the devotees, it's much easier. Because when we're alone, we're tempted to drift into other things. But when we're together, it's just so focused and so easy and natural. We're chanting together.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone wants to reflect or share anything? Anything helps.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I just wanted to say congratulations to you and your wife. It's very wonderful to hear.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we're all here with you. Thank you. They're all here listening. I can't show, but they're here listening to your blessings. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll let everybody know when we have the name. Let everyone know. But the provisional name is there, so you can use it. By Adipurusha Prabhu, by Adipurusha Prabhu's grace, we have it. Thank you. Very quiet baby. Very just looks like a sage of steady mind. Very quiet. Yeah. I feel foolish, because I'm not quiet. He's quiet. I have a little dude. I have a dude. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, Hare Krishna, we love you. We need you. Thank you very much for being in our life. We run on blessings.